Finally and at long last, it's time for us to seal these things up. As you can see, the LEDs are still working good. And now I'll show you putting in the grill. To put the plastic clear pieces on, I'm just using some contactor clear. It's a bit of an old bottle, but it's still good. The process is extremely simple, as you'll see from the video overlay. I'm just going to put some glue around the lip and then push down the buzzard collector clear pieces onto the glue on the inside of the nacelle. The process is, well, that simple really. You push it down and then wait for it to dry. The grills is a much harder job. Again, you're putting a seam of glue around that edge, and then we're going to have to sandwich the upper piece down onto the top of the grill. I'm using some masking tape here just to ensure that the grill remains straight, as normally you would not be doing it like this. Something interesting that I've now realized is that these nacelle grills actually sit on the inside, and whilst normally that's not an issue because you can sort of place it down like that, actually getting it to make contact with the top and bottom doing it this way is difficult. So I imagine what you'd normally be able to do is poke through with a stick or something just to make sure it stays down. But in this case I can't do that. Since I'm just waiting for this to dry, another thing I'm thinking about is, for those of you considering doing your own Voyagers, mounting the LEDs along the top or bottom of the nacelle seems to be a much better idea than doing it the way I've done it. Because not only will you eliminate any hot spotting, assuming you get tape that's bright enough, but it also makes the entire mechanism much simpler if you can just lie it flat as one strip. In the case of the buzzard collectors, you can still use the three parts of the LED tape just in a C shape coming up and back around, with all the LEDs facing in, would be more than bright enough. So on the Reliant model that I'll be moving on to in the future, I'll do that with the nacelles rather than using these mountings. Because right now it's going to be a bit of a tricky job to make sure that when I clamp these shut, A, I don't break the gluing on the bottom, and B, that it actually adheres properly on the inside face. Still, we're almost there. Alright, it's time to seal this up. We have the grills in place. This will just slot down on top of it like so. So all we need to do is bind it and make sure the wires come through. Now before I do this, I want to be sure. I'm just going to do one more light test, make sure that nothing else has gone wrong, because once I've sealed this up, it's going to be much harder to take it apart. So positive and negative. Alright, buzzards light up, as does the nacelle. As you can see, the LEDs are flashing very nicely, which means we are set and ready to seal this up. First thing I'm going to do is just tuck these wires down here to ensure that they're not going to get pinched. Then I'll take my glue, make sure it's flowing, and we're going to very carefully put a fine bead. We don't want to use too much. All around the edges. Where's my lamp? Just taking that round to the point where the grill is without actually putting it on the grill. Then doing the same on the front. This is the part I'm usually pretty good at. I don't generally screw up the gluing. Yeah. And then with the contactor clear, which is obviously the glue specifically for clear pieces. We just want to run a bead across the top. As I said earlier, this isn't how you're meant to assemble the grill part, but this is kind of where I am. So wherever it makes contact, it should glue. Now, as mentioned previously, making sure the wires don't get caught. It's just a case of pushing it together. Grab some masking tape. That is the end. Make sure it's nice and tight. Seal it down. And same deal for the front. Grab a bit of masking tape. Make sure the grill is in place. Check the wires aren't being caught, which it currently is. Just push that in. There we are. Bring the two halves together. Nice and tight. Yeah. Don't worry if you get gaps, because we're going to be filling those in. As you can see, the grill hasn't quite gone behind, so I'm just going to carefully push the grill to make sure that it goes behind the plastic. Yeah, there we go, that's better. It wasn't quite in place. I'll just need to reseat the central masking tape now that I've done that. Here we are, that's better. Alright, one nacelle, which as you can see the grill lights up, as do the buzzards. The red LEDs are flashing. We'll be able to see the end result of that in the next video. There's still a bit of work left to be done. We need to seal up the front with some putty and then obviously paint them up properly. But in the next video we'll be looking at the struts, because it's time for a change, I think. And you know, that should be a much simpler process. But until then, I'm Raven, and that's all from the desk.